This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, it's a phrase that goes around. It gets easier. Life gets easier over time. Maybe that's true. And maybe as you experience certain things in your life, you feel a little bit stronger. Maybe in your journey, if you're intentional about maybe moving your life forward, if you're stuck, things feel stronger. Well, the same thing applies to when you're in therapy. When you first connect with somebody, a therapist, sometimes it's hard to express your feelings, but eventually you feel stronger about doing that. We're going to dig into that and so much more today. And this is what she does, offers psychotherapy for many different people, individuals and couples and all different challenges. She's with Pressman and Associates. Miriam Rosario is back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good. Song pops in my head. Was a hit in the 70s, but it still gets played. Feeling Stronger Every Day by the band Chicago. And if you listen
Mhm.
to the lyrics, it's kind of about that. And it's about a relationship where somebody it ended and they're feeling stronger as time goes on. Um, it seems like when you're going through a journey and you start realizing that you're stronger than you thought, things get easier, right?
Right, right. And that's in a sense, well, I guess in the psychological term for therapy, that is your ego strength that is building up and becoming stronger.
Let's talk about that word ego because it gets a bad rap. A lot of people say, "Oh, look
Hmm.
at that ego on that one over there." We all have egos, and
Hmm.
they support us in many ways. It can get in the way as well. What is ego strength?
Well, ego strength is the ability to be able to get up in the morning and go to work and speak up for yourself and feel good about yourself. I think that when people a lot of the times are using ego, what they really mean is pride. Because if we didn't have any ego strength, we wouldn't be able to get up out of bed and function.
Got to process that for a second. Interesting.
Uh,
Wow. Okay. So it's your pride that stands up when you're, let's say, exhibiting what some may say is, an elevated level of ego.
yes,
Wow.
I
Okay.
believe that. Yeah.
And that's why it took me a second to think about it. Um, and even my friends will talk about this stuff. Sometimes we go a little bit deeper, and ego comes up a lot, especially among men, where, hey, man, your ego's getting in the way. You realize that? But it's really
Mhm.
not your ego. And I've wrestled with that. Like I've thought about that. I was like, wait, is that really your ego? No, it's your pride. It's your pride.
It is. Yeah, because ego has to do with psychological resilience.
Hmm. Well, that strength right there, using that word
Hmm.
resilience.
Hmm.
Um, how does this all look through the lens of therapy?
Well, in therapy, what happens is when a person's ego strength becomes stronger, the person in therapy starts to feel better. They start to feel stronger. Just like you were talking about in that relationship, every day it gets stronger, right? So in therapy, when you first start therapy, for whatever reason you're coming, if somebody is going through a breakup and they're sad and depressed, they come in and they talk about how the relationship was, how they may be sad about it, how, it was toxic and I know I need to move on, but I'm having a hard time functioning you know, um, to let's say a few months later, them that same person coming in and talking about how, it's been a few months and I realized I'm picking up all of the pieces of myself and I feel better. I feel stronger. I know that that relationship wasn't a good fit and I know that I'm ready to continue to move on. And
Hmm.
I'm feeling a lot better. And for a lot of people, when they start to feel better in therapy, then they say, okay, I'm done. This is going to be my last session.
How do you know when you're ready to end it?
When you're ready to end the relationship or therapy?
Therapy. Yeah.
Well, when somebody's truly ready to end therapy, is you're at a point where you're functioning where at a level where you want to be, right? And that you have actually processed through and discussed and healed from everything that you initially went into therapy for. So if, for example, you're going through a depression and there are a lot of things that have happened in your life that have gotten you there, then, it's going to take time to build a relationship, a professional relationship with the therapist. And once that is established, then you start to feel more comfortable and you start to feel trusting, and then you're able to talk about things. And when you're able to talk about things, you talk about the things that you have the ego strength to talk about at that time. So as you continue in therapy and you continue to process through and resolve other issues, and you get to the point where, you know what? I think I have completed all of the issues that I initially started with, and I have a good idea and understanding on how to continue on my own because I've learned the coping skills that I need. I've learned self-care. I've learned whatever it is that they needed to learn, and they can now apply for themselves to themselves, and then they can exit therapy because the idea actually is to get to the point where you can do it on your own.
Hmm. Let's go back to the beginning. How do you, how would you address somebody who says, I don't know if I'm ready to go to a therapist. I don't know if I can do this. Or I've talked about this so many times with friends, and I don't want to hear myself talk again. Now I can go to therapy, and now I got to do this all over again and talk about this. And if they're feeling that they're just not ready, how can they get more ready to start the process?
Well, talking about it helps. And in order for them to be ready, they actually have to be ready. I mean, therapy is one of those things
Mm,
that you need the strength and the courage to do that. Because, we've talked about, the different stigmas that happen or that people have when it comes to therapy, and a lot of it is fear. A lot of it is fear of being vulnerable. So, really, what I just say to people that are like that is, when you're ready, you're ready. I
mm,
don't try and convince anyone. If they ask me questions, then I will answer those questions. But, you know, I think therapy is a very subjective and it's very sensitive. So when a person is ready and has the strength to do it, then that's what I would join. But I would definitely not try and talk somebody into going to therapy.
mhm. Well, goes back to, and you said it again, you got to be ready to heal. You have to want to. And that pretty much applies to any modality. And I would even think too, if you have a yeah, major illness, physical illness, it's going to take longer to heal if you're not doing your part mentally. You know, how many times do they say, somebody has an accident and let's say they have a positive outlook, they heal so much faster because they want to, as opposed to, I'm waking up again. I feel like garbage, blah, 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 blah. It's just going to take longer.
Hmm.
You got to want it.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. Right. It's almost like, and also the one thing that a lot of people have an issue with too is they know exactly where they are and how they feel and what to expect and what to do. What's going to happen if I heal? Then what? So they become afraid of
Hmm.
healing and being better.
Ooh, we just opened a door because there's a term addicted to suffering
Hmm.
where many of us that becomes the new norm where we're so used to being down in the dumps or being negative about a situation that it seems weird to be out of the situation. That's what it sounds like you're talking about.
Right. Right. It's a situation that we're familiar with. I know how to handle it. I know what to expect. If all of a sudden everything is healed and gone, what am I going to do then?
Mm. You know, many of us have a fear of failure. Totally understand it. There's also a fear of success.
Right.
So many people say that they didn't move forward with certain things because they were afraid of succeeding. Why would that be a problem? Well, my friends will see me as a success. I'm making more money. I'm doing better. I have a new car. I have a couple of boats. Hey, this is great. They'll view me differently. Things will all change. I don't want that. I want to stay where I am. I want to stay safe. So a lot of us come down to that, the fundamental thing where everything we do is really to remain safe, which is maybe why we don't even talk to a therapist or put the block up there because this is the known entity. I feel like CRAP. I'm miserable. Things aren't the way I want them to be, but I know that they are. I'm here,
Right. Right.
right?
Right. It's being
Hmm.
able to step out of the comfort zone.
Is it really true that you will not experience any change unless you step out of the comfort zone?
I believe so. I could be biased about that though. I think I had shared in the past that I've done leadership development, like the ropes course. And when you're doing an activity like that, you are literally stepping out of your comfort zone. And it really demonstrates how when you step out of your comfort zone, you have different types of experiences and you can succeed in a different kind of way.
Well, I think it goes back to what we started talking about today, ego strength,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I look back even in the last year, even the last year and a half, and when be intentional, I think we all should be, and look at everything that transpired and things I did and where I stepped out of comfort zones. It's like, wow, it seems normal now. But back then, when I was thinking about doing this or doing that or doing this, it was like, I don't know about that. I don't know. I guess well, I'll get to that one day. Well, the one day came and took care of it. And I was like, well, this is great. I feel better about
Mm-hmm.
myself. And would you say if somebody says that their ego strength has been lifted up, fortified?
Yes. Yes. And that's a really good example because one of the things with the leadership development and doing an activity like that is that you're not alone when you do that. You have people that are supporting you. So all of that is a metaphor of having the right people in the right place at the right time to help you process through whatever event it is or whatever experience you're having. You can go so much further. So reaching out is always better than not asking for any help and suffering in silence.
Mm. You you mentioned the leadership exercising course and things. Um, and I'm part of a leadership and community service group with a bunch of men. And one of our we come up, they have different tours, and they last 4 months, sometimes six. Different values, and one of the values is embrace the discomfort, and we repeat them at every meeting. It's like five of them. One of the other ones is trust the process. I
Hmm.
know those three words is kind of a cliche, and you're like, yeah, yeah, whatever, but it's true, isn't it?
It is.
Hmm. How do you define the process?
I guess it depends on what the experience is. The process is you have these experiences. You have to trust what you're feeling, what's happening with that. And also it's important to trust. Now, I'm gonna talk in terms of somebody who's in therapy, right?
Okay.
So it's important to trust that you have this connection and trust and that you're safe with the therapist that you're with, so that you can be guided through these emotions and understand that you're not alone and that the emotions that you're feeling are relevant and you're feeling them because they're relevant because, someone has caused you harm. And, maybe you're the kind of person that you are a giving person. And so it's learning how to maybe step back because maybe the other person was just constantly taking from you and not really reciprocating that relationship. So, really trusting that process and understanding that, you are who you are, and there's no reason to have any excuses for yourself or to explain anything. And you need to continue to grow in who you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It is gonna say it, process,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to take the steps. You can't go from point A to point G unless you've gone to the other points in between there. It doesn't really work that way. What else should we know about therapy and feeling comfortable and engaging with a therapist?
I think the most important thing is that you're able to talk about whatever it is that you need to talk about and to be completely honest.
Mm.
And that is very, very hard for anybody. And it takes time to be vulnerable like that.
Do you feel that when things come up, let's say situation with somebody that maybe has pushed you into therapy, or maybe things from way in the past are coming up, you have those memories because you need to get healed, and that's why they're coming up. It's almost as if it's um, your subconscious saying, hello, I need some help here. This is why I'm throwing this into your conscious mind, because I need you to work on this with me.
Right. I mean, I would just say yes.
Mm,
When you're in therapy, if you're forced to be in therapy, I always ask the person, what brings you here? And and if they say, well, such and such said that I need to come or else. And I was like, well, I always respond with, well, what is it that you need in order to be able to no longer come? Right? Because if you're coming to therapy and you don't want to be here, being in therapy and healing is a process that we both work on together. Now, if you're not in the space where you're able to do that or you want to, right, then it's not going to be helpful.
mm. I can't imagine a situation where you would be pushed into therapy. How does that look? A spouse says, "Hey, you're going to therapy."
Yes. A spouse, a partner,
Mm,
a child, a parent to a
okay,
child.
fair enough. All right.
Yeah. Or you get in trouble with the law. You're forced for anger management,
Okay. All
domestic
right.
violence.
Gotcha now. Yeah, especially with the child thing. What child's going to say, "Okay, mom or dad, can't wait, let's go." Yeah. Yeah. Because if your partner spouse is asking you to go, they can't make you go.
Right.
You know, I, we all have free will, but it goes back to you got to want to move your life forward, i.e., you want to heal.
Hmm.
And I mean, one thing that could force you, and it's something that you specialize in, people that have been in car accidents,
Right.
where there's a lot much more going on there in terms of the impact of the accident than the physical aspect, the the emotional and mental part of it.
Right. Yep. I just recently did an evaluation with someone who was in a car accident. And, in while taking the information, he was talking about how he was anxious to drive and that he's
Wow.
actually more comfortable riding a bike. But at the end of the session, he wasn't injured physically um, a lot, but he was injured.
Hmm.
But he was able to manage what his pain is, and he was working through that. But at the end, had just told me that he was just not interested in doing the therapy. Um, and I said, okay, well, if you change your mind, let me know because The accidents definitely have a psychological impact. He wants to work through it on his own. I'm not sure what kind of stigma he
Hmm.
has attached to therapy. He had
Hmm.
never been to therapy before, so I don't know if he's thinking, well, I can work through this, or, I'm not weak. I have no idea, but I don't go into that in session. I just say, well, this is simply here to help. And if you're not into continuing with the treatment, then
Wow.
yeah.
He clearly has some lasting effects of that accident. And I've never been in a serious accident, but even the minor ones, I remember every detail.
Mm-hmm.
Even back to I was 25 on my way to work, hit some sand. I was falling a little too fast, a little too close to the car in front of me. Hit the brakes, hit the sand, hit the back of the car in front of me. Wasn't anything major. I had a new sports car at the time, so that hurt
Oh, okay.
the most, cherry
Yes.
red, 25-year-old. Hello. But I remember every detail. I remember it
Mhm.
was an older woman. I could tell you the time of day. I could tell you what I was doing prior to getting in the car and going to work. I had a hobby. So I'm like, I won't work until last second. Then I'm going to go to work. It was a radio job too. It was on my, yeah, every detail. That wasn't major. I can't imagine somebody having a major car accident and everything is retained. The body doesn't
Right.
forget. And now you're carrying that. And even this gentleman feeling safer riding a bike than being in a car.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think that goes back to what we said before. You got to be ready. You got to
Yes.
be ready. And I'm going to say it, trust the process,
Right.
which I think that, if you want to paraphrase that, believe. You got to
Mm-hmm.
believe this is going to help move your life forward. In his situation, make him feel comfortable getting behind the wheel of a car as opposed to handlebars on a bike where you're fully exposed. Um,
Right.
Yeah. But it starts with a conversation. How do we find you? What's the best way, Miriam?
You can go to www.pippna.com, or you can call 856-548-9557.
Can you work with anybody anywhere?
Um, I believe so. I believe so. I mean, it really depends. For the PIP portion of my job, I believe I can do either New Jersey. It really depends on the policy.
Sure.
But for regular general, mental health, I believe that I can.
And the PIP stands for, if I remember correctly, Personal Injury Protection Insurance,
Yes.
which, as I've shared with many and learned from you, it's pretty much in every insurance policy. It's built in if you have an accident that your insurance company will pay for somebody like you to help work us through it, right?
Right.
But they
Right.
don't tell you that.
No. No.
Because they'll have to spend on your
Yeah.
therapy. Thank you for today. Some of this sounds to some obvious, but it's not when you're going through challenges and you have to open up and talk with somebody and feel comfortable and ego strength.
Right.
Big and pride. I see this
Yeah.
in a whole different light and I appreciate it.
Great.
Thanks for being here today.
Always great to be on.
Likewise, we'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.